There are so many teams in baseball right now that are 3 games back of first place, 2 games back of second place, a half game back of the wild card, and honestly, if these teams made one single trade, they might even be World Series contenders. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to talk about the teams from the past that made one single trade deadline deal that instantly turned them into one of the best teams in baseball, and for some of these teams, won them a World Series. Let's get into it. This first trade is sponsored by Seatgeek. If you're going to any baseball games or concerts anytime soon, make sure that you guys use code FUZZY to save $20 off those same tickets. Last year in 2018, we saw the Red Sox pull off a trade that not a lot of people thought was good going into it, but when it came to World Series time, Steve Pearce was easily one of the best acquisitions of all time. The Red Sox traded Santiago Espinal to the Blue Jays in exchange for Steve Pearce and some cash on June 28th of 2018. They were tied for first place in the American League East, and you guys know what happened. They won the AL East by 8 games, had one of the best seasons of all time, and then capped last year with the World Series championship. And who was the MVP from last year's World Series? Steve freaking Pearce. He hit 3 home runs and had a 500 on-base percentage in that same World Series to give the Red Sox their 9th World Series win. So for a guy that you traded a prospect and some cash for, and when I say prospect, not even that great, he's a minor league baseball player who doesn't have the best stats, I think the Red Sox, they would do that all over again if they could, and they did, and they re-signed him to a massive deal. And when I say massive, I mean massive for Steve Pearce, so I gotta tip my cap to the Red Sox. They paid the man, he gave them the World Series. I gotta give my respect to them. I remember this next trade as if it happened yesterday. Back in 2008, this was one of the first years where I had a nice phone, so I was actually able to get notifications and go to Yahoo to get my baseball news. I know, 2008, I had the LG NV2, but aside from that, on June 31st of 2008, the Dodgers traded for Manny Ramirez, the Red Sox got Jason Bay, and the Pirates got Brandon Moss, Craig Hansen, Andy LaRoche, and Brian Morris. So the thing that really matters most is the fact that the Dodgers got Manny Ramirez, and he was an absolute stud for them. Before the trade, the Dodgers were in second place as they were 2 games back of the Arizona Diamondbacks. They finished the season by winning the NL West by 2 games and eventually made it to the NLCS against the Phillies, where they did lose. But Manny Ramirez, I told you guys he was a stud. He hit a ridiculous 396 with 17 home runs and 53 RBIs and basically one half of baseball. That's amazing. That's pretty much what Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger are doing right now. So even though the Dodgers got a red-hot Manny Ramirez, it was not enough to defeat the 2018 World Series champions, the Philadelphia Phillies. I don't know if you guys remember that Philly squad, but they were just insane. There was no beating them, of course, as they won the World Series. But Manny Ramirez to the Dodgers, one of the best deals of all time at the trade deadline. On June 28th, 2004, the greatest midseason trade in the history of baseball, at least in my opinion, went down. The Astros got a guy named Carlos Beltran, the A's received Octavio Dotel, and the Royals got Mark Teahen, Mike Wood, and John Buck. The Astros literally threw a Hail Mary for this pick as they were in 5th place, dead last in the NL Central. They were 7 games back of the St. Louis Cardinals. They came back to win the NL wildcard by 1 game and eventually lost in the NLCS to the Cardinals, but Carlos Beltran, at 27 years old, was one of the most feared hitters in all of baseball once he joined that squad. Carlos Beltran was the definition of clutch in 2004, especially in the postseason. He hit 4 home runs in the NLDS, and it gets even better. In the first 4 games of the National League Championship Series, he hit a home run as well. So of course they did end up losing, but man, Carlos Beltran to the Astros, what more could you ask for? All of you Yankees fans, you might want to close your eyes and cover your ears for this one, because the Yankees, they traded away one of the greatest players of all time for not much. On June 21st, 1989, the A's traded away, okay, kind of give me some leeway with these names because I've never even heard of them. They traded away Greg Caderet, Eric Plunk, and Luis Polonia for a guy named Ricky Henderson. And I think Ricky's better than all of them. In 85 games for the Oakland A's, Ricky Henderson swiped 52 bags and turned in a .425 on-base percentage, so at that point, you know it's over for the rest of the league. The A's were already in first place at the time of this trade, so a lot of people were wondering why they would trade away some of their best prospects or some of their top young players for a guy that was a little bit older for the Yankees. But again, when he joined the A's, they were already good. Ricky made them that much better as they eventually won the AL West by 7 games. They won the American League League Division Series, the Championship Series, and then ultimately the World Series. So yeah, I would say the trade paid off. So a few minutes ago, I said that Carlos Beltran to the Astros was the best trade deadline deal in the history of baseball. Well, guys, there might be one more that was just a little bit better. Let's talk about it. David Justice was one of the most feared hitters in all of baseball up until about the midway point of his career. So the Indians, they decided to trade him away to the New York Yankees on June 29th of 2000 in exchange for Ricky Leedy, Jake Westbrook, and Zach Day. So 3 guys for 1 player. Let's see who won that. Jake Westbrook actually was pretty solid for the Indians, but the Yankees, who were in 2nd place in the American League East Division, I really feel like they got the better of this trade, because honestly, if you're comparing this to Carlos Beltran, this might be the greatest trade deadline deal ever. They won the American League East by 2.5 games and eventually won the World Series. If we take a look at David Justice's stats as the number 3 hitter for the Bronx Bombers, in just 78 games, he had 20 home runs and 60 RBIs. That is just, you don't really hear numbers like that anymore. So the fact that they traded him away for 3 players because they thought that he was going towards the end of his career. Nope, David Justice had a lot of gas in the tank. Well, eventually he did fade off for the Yankees. He went to the A's and ended up being a star for them as we saw in Moneyball. But yeah, David Justice, the Yankees, what a steal. Next up, we're going to talk about a trade that happened a long time ago. The Cardinals acquired Lou Brock on June 15th of 1964. The Cardinals traded Ernie Broglio, Doug Clemens, and Bobby Shantz to the Cubs in exchange for Lou Brock, Jack Spring, and Paul Toth. Obviously, the biggest prize of them all was Hall of Famer Lou Brock. Trailing the first place Phillies and Giants by 7 games and sitting in 8th place in the National League, the Cardinals weren't necessarily looking to make an immediate postseason push, as they were looking to lock up Brock for subsequent years to come. Fortunately for the Redbirds, they got the best of both worlds, so they were able to secure the bag in that same season and then be good for every season after that. The Cardinals came all the way back to win the pennant in 1964, in large part because Lou Brock went off. He had a .348 batting average with 12 home runs, 44 RBIs, and they beat the Mickey Mantle-led Yankees in the World Series. Brock would stay in St. Louis for the final 15 years of his career, eventually making the Hall of Fame and being one of the most annoying cards ever to face in MLB The Show. But yeah, really good trade for the Redbirds. We have 2 more trades to talk about. The second to last one is going to be from July 18th, one day before my birthday, of 1993. The Atlanta Braves traded Vince Moore, Donnie Elliott, and Melvin Neves to the Padres in exchange for Fred McGriff. Now, this was a big time trade because before that even happened, the 2nd place Braves were 8 games back of the San Francisco Giants. So 8 games is a huge amount to overcome, and they won the NL West by 1 single game. Eventually, they did lose in the NLCS to the Phillies, but that does not mean that the trade was not successful. Fred McGriff had a .310 batting average, cranked out 19 home runs, and accumulated a 3.2 WAR down the stretch for the Atlanta Braves. He stayed with the Braves for a couple seasons, but yeah, Fred Mad Dog McGriff to the Atlanta Braves. I know it did not result in a World Series win, but they got really close, and without McGriff, they don't even make the playoffs. The final trade that I want to talk about happened in 2008. I remember this as if it happened yesterday because it involves my team, the Cleveland Indians. On July 7th of that same year, 2018, the Milwaukee Brewers traded Matt Laporta. He was supposed to be the next big thing. Zach Johnson, Rob Bryson, and Michael Brantley. So Michael Brantley was a player to be named later. He ended up being amazing, but these were all in exchange for CC Sabathia. The Brewers were 4 games back of the Chicago Cubs. They were in 3rd place in the NL Central, and they ended up winning the NL wildcard by 1 game. All of this was because of CC, who had an 11-2 record with a 1.65 ERA, and despite playing in just 17 games for Milwaukee, he finished in the top 6 for both the NL Cy Young and NL MVP awards. So the fact that this man did that in just 17 games and propelled the Brewers to the playoffs, he had to make the list. Alright guys, well that is going to do it for today's... Wait. I think I just thought of another trade off the top of my head. So if we go back to 2016, the year that the Cubs won the World Series, didn't they make a trade deadline deal? I think that they did. The Cubs acquired Aroldis Chapman from the Yankees in exchange for Adam Warren, prospects Gleyber Torres, Bill McKinney, and Rashad Crawford. I think, yeah, that was on July 25th. That was a deadline deal. So aside from the Rajah Davis home run in Game 7 of the World Series, I can safely say that Aroldis Chapman was completely dominant for the Chicago Cubs. I'm an Indians fan, so I can tell you that when Davis hit that home run, it was a complete miracle. It really wasn't supposed to happen. He does not hit home runs. Aroldis Chapman was dominant, and I just have to say that was a clutch trade. I just pulled that out of my head, so yeah, that's the last trade. That's it. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I had a lot of fun making this video. What I want you guys to let me know in the comment section down below is, do you think that there's one team in 2019 that is one player away from becoming a World Series contender? Is it the Yankees getting Madison Bumgarner? Is it the Braves getting yet another offensive piece? Or is it the Indians trading away Trevor Bauer in exchange for an outfielder? Let me know in the comment section down below who you think might be traded and actually make the list, this same list, maybe 20 years from now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. If you did enjoy, slap a like. Peace out.